Okay, so today, it's 5:30. We're gonna call this meeting to order. We are having a city council special meeting in the Boardman City Hall Council Chambers at 5:30 p.m. on May 23rd, 2023. We'd like to do the flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we get a roll call?
No.
No? Okay, it looks like we do not have Christina, Paul, or Isaac. I'm assuming they're all excused absences.
The only one we've heard from was Paul. I don't know about the other two.
Okay. So we'll roll right into the formal proceedings, which is a supplemental budget hearing for the 2022-2023 budget. I'm gonna turn this over to Marta.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight for this. As we're getting closer to the end of the fiscal year and the majority of our expenses are in, these are some of the funds I've identified that we need to increase our appropriations in. Most of them are just moving from our contingency line item to be able to spend it in the specific categories. And so I'll just kind of go down through each fund. In our general fund, for our public safety, most of this has to do with our dispatch contract that we have. Last year's invoice wasn't received until July, and so it was paid in this fiscal year, which was about 2 months late from when we normally receive it. And so we've already received the one that we'll be paying this fiscal year, so in a sense, they're kind of doubling up. And that alone is about $55,000. And then another big expense, we've had a lot of repairs with the patrol vehicles. Some of our current ones have had water pumps go out, and each one's costing about $2,500 a piece, and we still have about 3 more of those vehicles left that we're expecting once they hit the mile mark of the other ones will also need to be replaced. So in case those happen before June 30th, we'd like to have some of that appropriated so that we can get our facility fixed. Under our facilities, what I'm having is we had a lot of park maintenance repairs. And again, you know, summer weather is just now starting, and so to be able to repair anything else that comes up, we'd like to increase that. And the other one is we've had a lot of public notices that have had to be published in the paper. And so we'd like to appropriate a little bit more there, so that we have enough from here to the end of the fiscal year. So I'm proposing reducing contingency for the general fund is $75,310 and appropriating it to those 3 departments as listed. For the water fund, it's just anticipating, another thought. For the water fund, and in some of these other ones as I go through them, as you recall, we just now finished our 2020-2021 audit and got our final billing for that. And so that compared and adding our current auditor's fees for some of our funds would put us a little over. And so this is to help cover for those additional audit fees. And in the water fund, we also have our groundwater monitoring report that we'd like to have enough to cover for that. So I'm proposing reducing contingency by $12,600 and increasing materials and services. The AC kicked on. Maybe if you put your microphone down instead of up.
I tried. Yes, but it's.
Well,
Sorry about that.
well, it kind of doesn't work to not talking to him, so you can kind of face him towards you. Yeah, let's see if that works. Yeah.
Where was that cover? Okay. In our garbage fund, Just based off of the last billings that we've had, just so that we have enough to pay our bills for the end of this fiscal year in garbage services, I am proposing reducing contingency by 20,000 and increasing materials and services for 20,000. In our street fund, we've had a lot more of personnel expenses going directly into our street fund, and that is all based directly off of their timesheets. You know, if they're working on street projects, they document under street. If they're working on water projects, they document under water. This year, we've just had a lot more under street projects, and so to have enough through the end of our fiscal year, I propose reducing our contingency 26,000 and increasing our personnel services 26,000. The water reserve fund. This one, I'm asking for a reallocation. We are finally getting some of our supplies for our automated reading software program, and we had a bunch of the meters that we have to replace so that it's all compatible come in, and we decided those were not the ones that we needed, so we had to send them back. They issued us a credit, but I need you to approve a reappropriation of respending that money to the new setters, the replacement setters, because it's still documented as an expense, even though we got a credit for it. So that's what we have under the capital outlay. And then the transfers out in the water reserve and the sewer reserve tie to the last one for our geo bond debt service fund. So that is the property taxes that we get in for our geo bond payment. Well, we still have May, June, July, till November that will go into that account, but one of our payments is due in June, so that we have enough for the payment to be covered. I'm proposing to have half of that come out of the water reserve, half come out of the sewer reserve to make that payment. And then I do have it so that the next fiscal year, it gets paid back to those reserve funds. So it's just so that we have enough for that June payment. And then water fund debt service, I was asked if that was correct for only $45, and yes, so that one we closed out because we refunded in our geo bond. But when I budgeted for it, I was $40-some short, and because I'm transferring it out so I can close that account, it's considered an expense. And there's no other line items in there, so it makes it over appropriated if I just move it. So that's why that 45 is there. And lastly is the geo bond. And so that's what I was referring to, that transfers in $184,050. Half is from the water reserve, half is from the sewer reserve. And then updating to our principal and interest so that it matches what we'll pay out in June. So in total, because most of it is just proposal moving from contingency to the other line items, those funds net wise don't change. Most of it, or all the change is going to be the geo bond debt service fund, and that totals $630,450 as a fund change.
Can you repeat that?
30,450 is the total fund change proposed in the supplemental budget. Are there any other questions?
So we have, just so I'm clear, we have money set aside to cover all of these. It'll just change where that money is moved to, but that's not going to change the overall balance of what you were talking about at our original budget meeting.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and all of these are for this fiscal year.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 8-20
2001-23. I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. So at this time, were there any other questions? Okay, so this time we need to go into executive session. The Boardman City Council will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602A, which allows the council to meet in executive session to consider the employment of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session in person. The public virtual Zoom meeting link will be closed during the executive session as permissible. Executive session meetings are not subject to HB 2560. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session. So we're going into executive session at 5:42 p.m.
Mr. Hammond, if you want to stay online, we'll pause the recording of this meeting, and then when they're done with their executive session, we'll come back in for a workshop.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're back from our executive session. We're going to reconvene our meeting at 6:06 p.m.